We're deeply honored to have been invited here tonight to this forum that we have so much respect for. We're going to tell you a simple story about two college friends who started a business together to solve a problem, and how that led us to the discovery of something much greater. Amir and I went to college together over 10 years ago.
There you go.
I studied economics, and he was an engineering student. Right after I graduated college, this was in Chicago, I moved right back to India. India was booming at the time. We were on the cover of 2 Time magazines. It was an emerging market, and everyone was talking about starting businesses here. Businesses were getting funded, startups were everywhere. And inspired by an entrepreneurship class that I'd just taken in college, I decided that I would start my own business here. The 2 fastest growing industries at the time in India were banking and construction. Now, I knew that I would not be a good banker. I just was not a numbers guy, never good at finance. So I thought maybe construction. But being a builder was a messy business, and I didn't think it was for me. So I thought about becoming a supplier to construction. I thought about what kind of products were being launched around the world, modern products for construction, and I stumbled across metal facades. Metal facades were these large panels or facades that had started replacing paint and stone as cladding material for buildings. It was a product that could last twice as long as any other product that was available out there. It was light, it was easy to install, it was made entirely out of recycled product, and could be completely recycled again 25 years later after being taken off a building. I was amazed, incredible, just genius. So I thought I would bring this product to India. I wrote a project report, I sent it into a bank, I soon got a loan, and a year later, I had a factory. Just like any startup, my factory had a lot of teething problems. Not having any business experience, jumping right into starting my own venture was not very easy. But I persevered, and about 4 years later, as India started upgrading its airports, my product was finalized to be put up on many of these airports. I was in business. Later that year, my old friend from college, Amir, gave me a call.
We met a long time back in college, and the very fact that we're standing in front of you these many years later should tell you that the relationships you make in college will last you a very long time. College, though, going to the US is an expensive affair, and I came from humble beginnings. It required 2 part-time jobs and a loan to get me through college, which had piled up by the time I'd graduated. I knew I needed a well-paying job to pay all that debt back. So I decided to take my love for engineering and mathematics and apply it to the world of finance. Got a chance to join Wall Street at the peak of its glory in 2005. 2 years spent in that industry helped me pay a large part of that debt which I had accumulated. It also gave me the financial freedom to be able to choose what I did next. I went and found a bunch of people who were really passionate about investing, and I joined a private equity firm to start looking at investing in small to medium enterprises in the United States. It was a phenomenal experience. For my day job, I looked at 100 different businesses on a monthly basis, looking at all their histories and their geographies, from manufacturing to services, from IT to medical devices. The learning experience was phenomenal. But what it really did was it planted a seed in my mind about what it would take to start your own business. These were extreme tales of entrepreneurship. And then one day, the inspiration came. I was put on a project to evaluate America's 2nd largest electronics recycler. What was electronics recycling? Well, as it turns out, this business took electronics from across the United States, from homes and from corporations, and brought it to one of these shining new factories, where it put stuff like televisions, refrigerators, microphones, all into one end, and from the other end came out these tiny particles of metals, plastics, glass, that was then reused in new industries to create brand new products like spoons and microwaves, and even the metal panels that Akshat was building in India. As I started looking at the operations and the financials a little bit closer, It occurred to me that this was a phenomenal business in terms of the profitability. But what got me even more excited was the fact that if 350 million people in the United States were generating these numbers for a business, what was the application to a country of 1.2 billion people who were embracing technology faster than you could say, "What's up?" The thought was mind-boggling and was the seed that I needed to think about starting a new business in India. I was excited, and I called my old friend Akshat, who was in India at the time, and we talked about life and then what I had stumbled on.
A call can change a lot. Amir called me, he told me about electronic waste. I asked him what it was. He sent me some reading materials. I found it exciting. So we did a little bit of research about electronics in India, and we discovered three things. One, India had a lot of electronic waste. Two, this electronic waste was being collected by scrap dealers from your homes and from your companies and being taken out mostly to the slums for manual breakdown, not like the technology out like Amir had seen. And three, this manual breakdown was extremely harmful to the environment because of the toxins and poisonous elements inside of these electronics. About a month later, Amir had his next holiday, so he came down to India, and we made our way up to the slums of North Delhi to discover a little bit more about what was really going on. We entered the narrow lanes of the slums, muddy lanes, with tiny shops packed with electronics, overflowing with electronics. There was electronics of all kinds. There were TVs, refrigerators, washing machines, cell phones, motherboards, name it, it was there. We made friends, we acted as students and made friends with a few of the scrap dealers there. They invited us into their shops and showed us how they were actually recycling the waste manually. They even offered us tea and biscuits, very friendly people. What we saw in front of us was shocking. We'd only read about it till now. But there were groups of people hammering the glass out of old televisions, glass that contained lead, without any gloves on. There were other groups of people burning motherboards openly without masks on, releasing a lot of toxic fumes into the air. Other groups still were burning the precious metals from motherboards by dissolving them in tanks of acid. This acid also got rid of a lot of toxins from the motherboards, and eventually the entire acid tank with the toxins inside was poured into the ground and eventually seeping through into our drinking water. One of the friends we made that day, Ali, took us to some railway tracks nearby where all the recyclers used to take the extra fluff left behind from electronic recycling all day and burn it in open air. What rose out of that fluff was a cloud of yellow smoke. What we knew was toxic sulfur. We walked into the slums feeling excited, and we were walking away horrified. Horrified at the amount of electronics that we as humans were consuming and throwing away with such little idea what was happening to it afterwards. Horrified at the way it was actually being recycled and how harmful it was to the environment and to the people working within the industry. Our next stop was to go over to the Ministry of Environment. We met an official there and asked him if he knew about the problem and what the government was doing about it. We were relieved to hear that the government would soon be passing laws that would make it illegal to give this waste to the scrap dealers. That also got us very confident about this business that we could start. I was very excited. Amir went back to New York after that and resumed his job. We kept talking on the phone. After a little more research and some more thought, I decided that I was in. This was a business that was far larger than my panel business in Jaipur, which had started doing well by now and could be handed over to management. But the impact I could make with this kind of business, the scale it could reach, and the cause that I was working for was just something that really pulled me. So I called Amir and I told him that I'm in.
Sitting in my comfortable New York apartment, I remember thinking about this as if it was yesterday. But the fact is that the scenes that we had seen in the slums did not leave me. This single-handedly offered an opportunity to create an impact that no corporate job could ever offer. The one thing that I did know about entrepreneurship was that it involved taking risks. The other thing was that I had set up 10 years in a career in the United States, and leaving this would be viewed by many as being foolish. But I threw caution to the wind, and I said that this is it, and it had to be done. So we went ahead and we said, all right, we're going to set up in Delhi, and that's where we'd start everything. But we had no money. because I had just got done paying my education debt, and Akshat's money was actually stuck in his metal panels business. So we went out to friends and family, and we found a couple of friends who believed in the idea and what it was that we were trying to do. We came to Delhi, and we rented a warehouse, and that's it on the very first day. And we started as a simple trading business. We were going to take electronics from homes and offices across the country and give it to these small plants that had started popping up in India who were using clean technology to recycle this e-waste, very similar to the machines you had seen earlier. We figured it was an easy way to get into the business and get our feet wet. 6 months into that business, we had started talking to a lot of people at their homes and their offices, and we realized that people weren't simply just going to hand over their electronic waste to us because we had an authorization from the Delhi government, or that because we represented the right way of doing things. The local scrap dealer was extremely close to the customers who he had built a relationship over with for the last 20 years. He was going around on his bicycle, picking up this stuff, taking it back to the slums, and breaking it down with virtually no cost. That meant that we couldn't offer the same value to these customers. We knew immediately that we were in trouble, and the business was starting to look a little bit bleak. The burden of a business that wasn't taking off was beginning to show on us, and we were going to be public failures. But the very thing that started this was the friendship, and we went back to it, and it saved us, because it helped us to keep our sense of humor when things were looking bad. It helped us to keep our objectivity, and
well, we knew that we were in the right industry, and we knew that we were trying to solve the right problem. It was just the how that we weren't getting right. So almost as an act of desperation, we thought, let's not give this waste to the recycler. We called in an engineer, an electrical engineer. We picked out desktops and mobile phones and printers from the stock of electronic waste that we had, got it repaired by the engineer, and put it up online for sale. The stock sold almost immediately. Mobile phones sold the quickest. We sold over 100 phones in 2 days online. And the profits were really large. That got us really excited. Was there really this much demand for used mobile devices in India? It had been so long that we'd been focusing on the reduce, the reuse, and the recycling. The 3 R's of recycling are reduce, reuse, recycling. We'd been focusing so much on the recycle part that we'd stopped paying attention to the reuse. That day, we changed our mission. We would become a reuse company. We would extend the life of old electronics as much as they could be possibly extended, and then when they could not be extended any further, we would recycle them. But now we needed mobiles. How do we get our hands on mobiles? Well, we could pay a lot more now than the scrap dealer because we were going to repair it and resell it. But how do we go door to door and collect these mobiles? At that point, we decided to use what we thought we were good at, the power of the internet. We set up an online website and uploaded 500 mobile phone models on it. We allowed customers from all over India come and select the mobile they had sitting at home and tell us about its condition and hit calculate. They would get an immediate offer for their phone. If they liked the offer, they could create an order, and we would go and we would manage everything from pickup to payment of that device. We then hired a few engineers to repair the mobiles that we were expecting to come in through this website, and pooled in the little bit of money that we had and put it all into the marketing of this business, of this new website portal that we had created. And then we waited.
Slowly, we noticed that the clicks on the website started increasing. Those clicks turned into phone calls. The phone calls, they turned into orders. And that one customer care team that we had set up, the one person, couldn't handle the call volume in a month and a half. It was incredible. But what really got us was the fact that now, all of a sudden, there was everyone trying to sell us a smartphone across the country. We had to keep up with it. It's been 2 years since that day. And the core technology that we used to value over 3,000 models is now at the heart of exchange programs run by some of the leading mobile stores across the country, including Apple. What we were really doing was taking mobile phones out of people's drawers and cupboards where they were gathering dust and redistributing them to nooks and crannies of this country. We were selling ancient BlackBerries to farmers and refurbished iPhones to taxi drivers. It was incredible to watch. The work that we were doing was clearly gathering press. And one of the first publications wrote this about us: 2 environmentalists on a mission to change how Indians recycle e-waste. The truth is that we weren't environmentalists, but we were trying to change the way how Indians thought about recycling electronic waste. The work that we kept doing and the word of mouth that kept spreading about the service got us even more press attention. It was clear that TV after TV wanted to do a story on what was happening. One thing became very clear, that the world and society cared about the problem that we cared so deeply about. Entrepreneurship is a great teacher, but the one thing that it's taught us is that if you commit yourself to a problem and persevere and apply yourself, we guarantee that you'll get there and that the world will align with your mission. It may take a while, but you will. But perhaps something that I read a long time back summarizes everything that we've talked about till now. And the quote said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do rather than the things that you did do. So throw away those ropes, leave that safe harbor, and let the trade winds catch your sails. Explore, dream, discover. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.